Hey, this is Ken Rosignol with the Chesapeake Today, and I'm here today with Ryan Daniels. Ryan is a candidate for St. Mary's County Commissioner in the Lexington Park District, District 4, in the Democratic primary.
Yes, sir.
And you have no opponent in the Democratic primary, is that correct?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, so you will be the Democratic candidate once the primary is official,
Yes.
and face one of two Republicans that are running for the GOP nomination. Okay, Ryan, you were raised here in the county. Were you born in St. Mary's County?
Yes, sir. I was born on base, right at the, it's a clinic now, but it used to be a hospital. If you're looking at the clinic, that's third room from the right.
Sure,
I was born there.
the old base hospital.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so that actually makes you county.
Yes. And at this point now, as of 2 years ago, I've lived here for most of my life officially now.
Okay, all right. Where did you go to high school and college, or did you?
I did. So I moved here right in that freeze in 2000 and graduated Leonardtown Middle in 2001. I graduated Leonardtown High School in 2005, and then I did a little bit of CSM for about a year and a half before I joined the Marine Corps out of here. Actually, out of the building right down the way, I joined out of there.
Okay, so as a United States Marine, how long were you in the Marines, and what have you been doing since?
So I joined the Marine Corps at the end of '07. I was only in for 8 years. My plan was to stay longer, but after my first enlistment, I was injured in Afghanistan, so I had to fight to re-enlist, which I am not complaining about. I'm glad I did. But after that next 4 years, I was just kind of tired. I wanted to make it more of a career, and I couldn't. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, it's funny, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was actually not going to move back to Maryland, but the Marine Corps messed up my move pretty bad, and I got told about this intern program on base. Now, I was a combat engineer in the Marine Corps, so I had no aviation experience other than some of the combat engineer stuff I've done for airfields, but they had this program called the NADP on base that you could get in through being a wounded warrior. So I found out about that, and I was not going to turn that down. It was a 3-year program. You join as a 7, and you graduate as a GS-12, and I'd be dumb to turn that down. So I did that.
Okay, I read quite a bit about your background in terms of you've been helping veterans obtain benefits.
Yes.
And services that they need.
Yes, a lot of that. It's a need down here. I recognized pretty much back in '16 when I came back.
Okay, how's that working out?
It's going really well. I did it volunteer for a number of years because it was never about money for me. The VA, I understand why people are very worried about the VA with some things, but the VA has always been very good to me with my injuries and taking care of me. I noticed that a lot of people did not have the same care down here, and we're a little bit forgotten down here. So, for example, we only have one VSO here in this entire area.
What's a VSO?
Veteran Service Officer.
Okay.
And his name is Robert Chase. He's on base, great guy, but he's doing probably the equivalent of 2 or 3 VSO jobs, and he does all the all the med boards and stuff on base. So what I wanted to do was just when I found out it was a need, I just volunteer with my friends and the people they introduced me to. After doing that for a number of years and having a couple hundred people that wanted the same service, I was like, well, someone told me, like, if you're good at something, try to do more of it. So when I left the base, I was going to start a business, which has since turned into a sole proprietorship. So what I do now is I partner with local businesses that cover the cost to me, which is not much. It is not thousands of dollars like some of these people here. They cover the cost for the veteran, so I can help the veteran with their claims for free. And what that entails is I will go through a medical record with them. I will file with them. They see everything I'm doing because we file online. We submit together, and all the way up until their claim gets adjudicated, going through their appointments, if they have any issues with the VA, I cover them from the beginning to all the way at the end that their claim gets adjudicated. So I know that they are good, they understand what happens, and they can navigate them themselves. Very important to me that the beginning and the end of the entire process, they have someone the whole time.
Did you find it surprising that veterans weren't getting as much care here when one of the most powerful members of the Congress, this is his home county, he lives here? Steny Hoyer. I mean, it wasn't used to be that. Used to have his top senior aide also lived here, was a member of the House of Delegates, John Bohannon.
Yeah, I did not recognize, I mean, even back in the day when Charlotte Hall was a 1-star facility, I was still going there. I didn't have much issues, but I did hear a lot about people, so I was surprised. I know that now they are a 4-star facility, and if you've been there in a while, and if you ever want to go, let me know. I'll take you in there. It is much better than what it was before, but I didn't really recognize how bad it was because I was in good hands, I guess. But it sounds like there was a lot of help needed, and it sounds like some of that help's being driven now, so I'm happy to hear that.
Well, even during COVID, we had 65 people die at Charlotte Hall Veterans Home,
Yeah.
which is a state facility, but it's here in St. Mary's County.
Yeah, and I can't speak too much to that, but that is disappointing for sure. I don't like that for anyone. I know that was a whole thing across COVID, across the entire U.S. really, but here
Okay.
in my home state of Maryland, that's disappointing.
Okay, now you're running for county commissioner, and right now St. Mary's County seems to have a real problem with the EMS program, and they have a bunch, maybe 24 vacancies there. I mean, that's incredible. As a commissioner, what can you do to try to straighten that out? And in the sheriff's department, they have 27 vacancies the last time I checked with them, and yet they have over 13 people making over $200,000 a year in top jobs. Could they be using some of that money that go into the top jobs to make higher pay to attract recruits into the program?
So 2 questions. I'll start with the sheriff's
Okay.
one first. So I've had a number of conversations with the sheriff's office and Sheriff Hall and a number of people there. And I can't quote this via data. I like data. Just my conversation with them, it sounds like from what I understand, there's only 1 vacancy as of a couple weeks ago. That's what I know about that.
Well, you know, they're
There's
pretty
more
good
than that.
liars over there. I mean, they told me in writing they had 27 vacancies just 6 months ago. Do you think they filled them all in that short time?
I couldn't tell you, but I know, they did graduate some deputies, 4 or 5 or 6 not that long ago.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to that too much, and I don't want to call anyone a liar.
Okay,
but
it's
I know
okay.
that
I just did.
Yeah,
That's
I
me.
Gotcha. Well, I know that before I try to quote anything, I try to get relatively recent data. And something I've tried to do is I've tried to talk to all the departments the best I can when I have time and keep up these conversations so I stay in touch with them. And I know the last time I talked, it was very few vacancies. And to your other point about how much money it goes, I'm still getting caught up on the budget and what that means. I followed the budget process as they were going for a while, and I kind of fell back on that, but I'm going to get caught back up on that. So that way I'm prepared for if I get in, I can track it next year. But I didn't specifically look at that, but that might be something to look at for sure. I'm not
Well,
against that.
you've made a lot of statements about being a physical conservative and wanting to watch a budget.
Yes.
Okay. When you drive through Leonardtown and see acres of parked police cars unused, does that bother you?
I can't say that I see that, honestly. Maybe it's that I'm not that attentive to it, so I don't want to speak too much to that. But if I was to find out that there was a lot of deputies that were just sitting there that weren't doing their jobs, or it was wasteful to a point, I would probably have a problem with that.
No,
But the experience that I've had, I will say this, the experience I've had so far, I don't see that. In fact, I have some ride-alongs coming up. I do a day ride-along and a night ride-along coming up. I'm trying to immerse myself so that way I can form an opinion on that.
Have you gone to their Citizens Academy?
I have not. I wanted to. I was invited, but I did that work in Ukraine, and that was going to make me miss 2 meetings. And you can only miss 1, so I didn't want to take a spot when I knew I was going to miss two of the meetings for it.
But don't miss it. That's their indoctrination chance for you. You know,
I would like to go, though.
They'll give you a certificate,
Yeah. Certificates are cool.
and they'll put your picture in social media.
That is cool.
Okay, all right. So, when you say you want to watch a budget, what are you going to watch?
I just want to see how spending aligns with what our actual needs are. We, as a county commissioners, have priorities for the county. I want to make sure those priorities are done first, because to me, those priorities, it's nonpartisan. It's not Democrat, Republican, Independent. Those are taken care of first. If we were to ever actually have extra money at some point, which is something I want to do, I want to try to work on building our tax revenue. Then we can have those bipartisan conversations about what else to fund after
Okay.
that.
When you say you want to build tax revenue, what you're saying is you want to raise taxes.
No, I have no intention on raising taxes. My priority is I want to
Well,
make
what is
small
it?
business easy. So to your point, so
What does
that's
that
a
mean?
good question. I'm
to
glad
build
you asked
revenue?
that. That's great.
Okay.
I have no intention of raising taxes because taxes have a place to take revenue, to use the revenue to fund county things you need in county, right? I personally feel, and the data that I've looked at shows that our taxes are so high that it's creating affordability costs. So cool, we have this money, we're getting tax revenue, and we're spending on the things that we need, but it's causing everything else to go up in price, and people have to spend more money. So we can raise taxes every year, but it's become to a point where it doesn't create value for us. So my goal, tax revenue, is I really want to get with the Small Business Development Center and a few other people around here that are experts in that and figure out the best ways that we can build the tax revenue. So I have a meeting with the hospital coming up. I want to kind of reform relationships with the base, our number one tax revenue here, see what we can do to kind of work together on that, but really incentivize small businesses here. I know everyone jokes about the gas stations and stuff. I get it. That money for those big businesses, that tax money, that leaves the county. That doesn't benefit us. So I really want to work on the small businesses because those are the people that are leaving Maryland and make it easier for them to be here. It might hurt us at the beginning, but if it's something that in the long run creates more revenue that we can use for our budget, that would be great. I want to focus on that. I am not going to run on lowering taxes and then raise taxes every year, which is like quite a big pet peeve of mine, as I've heard of yours as well, and there's been a history of that.
Well, the Republicans have been raising taxes while they campaign against it. And they try to ignore failing to maintain the constant yield is a tax hike. And they try to say, well, it's all the state's fault. Well, that's why you lower the tax rate to make up for the increase in state assessments. And then recently we had the Republicans show up at the county airport along with the Democrat governor, and they celebrated the extension of the runway, which took 30 years to do.
Yep, I was there.
And they said, oh, now helicopters can take off from here. Well, helicopters been based there for 30 years, and helicopters go up and down. They don't really need a runway.
So that is a very true point. I used to work on H1, so
yeah, I mean,
you have a point
do you
there.
kind of blame people for thinking everything's just a real big joke?
Well, something I've learned about politics is a lot of talk to sell things about to people that don't really know enough about it, and it means very little a lot of the time.
Well,
so
right
you
now
got a great point about that.
There's a proposal to spend $120,000 to lower the dynamic aeronautical ceiling in the county airport for the restaurant. And they rent the restaurant out to the restaurant. Their lease there is like $312 a month. Wouldn't it be cheaper to cancel the lease and skip that $120,000 drop ceiling?
So,
if you were a commissioner, would you vote for the drop ceiling for 120 grand?
Without further research, just my personal opinion, I don't get it. Right now, I probably wouldn't vote for that because I don't get it. That's like,
well, there's never been a passenger, never been a scheduled flight at the airport ever, and yet the sheriff's department sent several teams of canine dogs off to Canada for training on bomb sniffing for aircraft, and they could have gotten it free from ATF over Front Royal, but instead the taxpayers paid for them to go up there. That was 10 years ago. I mean, it's like just one thing after another.
That is interesting. I know that is value-added training for sure. Some of my stuff that I've done overseas kind of had a place in that. But if you can get something for free, do something for free, right?
Especially that wasn't free to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
The St. Mary's County, they had to pay for the cost.
Yeah, but if you could have gotten for free without looking more into that, I would wonder why.
But the airport's been like a parade of nonsense over the years. It's good for the small contractors and the small businesses that are around there that deal with the base and the defense contractors. But it seems like every time you turn around, they do another one. Like they had the skydivers there. That cost $1 million to the county to get rid of them. And they were, dropping into the neighborhoods and dropping into the runways and all that. I mean, it's like nothing's really thought out very well around here.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I hear you.
How will you be a different commissioner from the buffoons we've had over the years?
So, it sounds corny, and I'm just going to say it. I don't like what's going on either. I say this, and it's the same thing I tell everyone, like, people are leaving Maryland because you can't afford to be here. I see it with my family, my friends, my clients, my colleagues. I have so many people that I help get higher benefit ratings, and they're like, great, I have the opportunity, I can leave now. My parents, they were going to retire, and they were going to leave, and they worked really hard to make the money they have, but their money doesn't go as far as they expected it to at this point. My brother, hard worker, makes almost 6 figures, been working for years, very hard, and he will never be able to buy a house right now. He can barely afford rent. I know people across the board, my age, people older than me. I've met a lot of seniors now that want to downsize and they can't because of interest rates. We have a problem here, and without some real long-term thinking that I have seen from the vast majority of commissioners over the years, without some real long-term thinking, we're not getting anywhere, and we haven't moved at all into some direction that looks like, what do we do not 4 years from now, waiting, worrying about my next election? What can I do to set up if I don't win the next commissioners after? I care about the people here. This is my home now, full time. I'm not doing any more work overseas, so you're going to probably see me a lot more here because now I'm home to do this, to run this. I care about people staying here. I care about this place. I love my parks. I love the water. I grew up in Hawaii, so as corny as it sounds, I just care about what this place is to become in the future for my friends who have kids, for my family members, for me that stay here. So I just offer you authenticity and genuineness. I care about keeping people here and taking care of people. And so far, if you've watched my campaign, I've been running my campaign like that. I go to everything, whether you refer to a certain party or not. I still care about you. But I'm also really thinking about what some of these things actually mean in policy, which is why I'm not even county commissioner yet, and I've been getting deep into the departments, the commissions, the nonprofits. I've been meeting everyone to see what I don't know so I can understand it better. So when I go in, I'm not learning as soon as I get in. I have a good idea of what I need to do when I get in. I can hit the ground running.
The gridlock at Great Mills has been going on for 20 years.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
I've dealt with that myself.
And we've had Democrat senators, Democrat members of the House delegates, Democrat governors. We've had Republicans in office, both as delegate, senator, governor. Nothing gets changed at Great Mills. As a matter of fact, the St. Mary's County Commissioners and the Planning Commission approved the J.F. Taylor building down there, which put another 450 employees into a building at that intersection. Like, if we can't fix it, let's just make it worse. Is that their philosophy, you think?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, I don't really understand the thought processes behind some of the planning that's been going on down there. I haven't for some time. So you got a point. I don't know. I really don't know. But something does need to be done about that because I have heard so much about that place.
Now there's 1,200 new homes supposed to go in down at Stewart's Grant. Like, can the schools take in the extra people that's going to produce? Or all those people coming in there are not going to have kids?
I mean, that is such a can of worms open up because, you're looking at traffic, you're looking at schools, you're looking at if it maxes out schools, what do we do, redistrict again? Are we going to get another school? We can't even open up another school until they're at capacity anyway based on the state of Maryland laws. That's a whole can of worms open, man. You got some good points there. There's some good questions.
Okay. So we've talked about traffic, talked about education just a little bit. The commissioners fund the Board of Education budget, okay? And yet, when you look at the test scores, isn't it disappointing to see the students not able to read as well as they do in other parts of the state? In fact, they're doing better in Baltimore City. I mean, like, nobody can read or write or do math up there. And they're getting more money than ever than any place else in the state for Baltimore City schools. But, shouldn't we be able to expect more? And teacher pay is really cheap. I mean, shouldn't that be more? I mean, when you have 13 members of the sheriff's department making over $200,000 a year, making more than judges, making more than the average chief of police in the state of Virginia, and one deputy had $185,000 2 fiscal years ago in salary and overtime, and you have teachers not even making $60,000.
I mean, there's a lot of pieces to that too. I will say, and I do want to make this clear. I know I have a lot of friends that are police officers. I know there's a lot to that job. Without, again, getting deep into that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the brass.
I know. I gotcha. Without looking at that, I know the job that they have, and I feel for that because I've done a lot of that similar kind of work too. What the pay should look like, maybe I need to look more into that. But to your point about do teachers need to make more money? Absolutely. I'm glad they got up to $60,000. The Maryland Blueprint got them that. I mean, that is a benefit, the Maryland Blueprint. And then to your point about test scores, in general, I'm disappointed about test scores pretty much throughout the United States compared to what I've seen, like what they're able to do overseas. It's nice to know that we are actually one of the higher test scoring counties, which still isn't that great test scores wise, but we've been generally one of the lowest funded for a while. So I give a lot of credit to the fact that we're fully funded this year. But what does that actually mean? I will say this. We have an opportunity here. So I know Superintendent Smith is retiring. We have some new board members coming into the Board of Education, and we have a new easement president coming in. I'm trying to facilitate those relationships with the people coming in now, so we can maybe start looking more into what that might mean to address test scores and that in general. Because we have an opportunity now, maybe get a different line of thinking. The whole thing of, if you ever work overseas, you're in the military, doing it how we've always done it, there comes a point where that just doesn't work anymore. That's just comfort. And we've been in this whole line of comfort for a long time without trying to change the game or thinking outside the box. We're going to be stuck in that same thing for a while. We're not going to change anything. So I'm willing to do that, but I need to build those relationships, get those people in, see what that actually looks like. And I'll say I've had a lot of conversation with the new easement president, and I think we're on the same page with a lot of that. So I'm excited about what comes up for that, because education is a big part of what I want. I want everyone's kids to be educated and well-fed and happy and safe in school. I want all that for all of them. I had that.
What kind of reaction are you getting from small businesses around the county?
In regard to
Your campaign?
I feel pretty good about it. I've gone to a lot of small businesses that, frankly, and this, I don't want to talk bad personally about about any of the commissioners really, but in this general area, it's pretty receptive to me, because I sit down, I buy lunch, I talk to them about the issues they have. I show up again a week later, next door. I do that. So, I mean, the fact that they see me trying to understand, and they have the opportunity to talk to me, and if they invite me, I actually show up. It's been pretty receptive to me. A lot of the businesses in Great Mills, Lexington Park, they have a lot of worries. So I'm also part Puerto Rican, so I really try to spend a lot of time in Hispanic restaurants down there to try to get them to partake, like in Lexington Park Business Association, stuff like that, so that way they can kind of build that up a little bit more and do some more things together. It's been pretty. I can honestly say that so far, everything I've done, it feels pretty good, like I'm doing pretty good what I'm doing, and I'm genuine about it too. If they want me to show up there, ask me, or they want to talk, my Facebook Messenger is on my campaign. Not many commissioners have that. Not many people have that. Mine is. They send me a message, I respond. They send me an email. I've always said, if you contact me, I will respond within 7 days, and I typically respond within 48 hours.
Okay, I've asked you a lot of questions.
Keep going, man. I'm open for it.
Is there anything that I have not asked you about that you want to talk about?
Workforce housing. I do want to say, because I do want to quote this a lot, I wasn't sure how to address the workforce housing aspect. But looking at the Southern Maryland Association of Realtors, the census data, Brooke Learman, the Maryland Comptroller's report, there's a lot of pieces to that. And I know a lot of people are really worried about more housing in St. Mary's County, what that looks like. We don't want it here. We don't want it in these spots. It's going to lower my home value. I get those concerns. I do. I want to let you know, when you see me talking about that, I'm not talking about cutting more of your trees and burning your farms. That's not what I'm saying. I really want to focus on, Maryland Comprehensive Plan is here. We have an opportunity now to address a lot of that. And when that starts being worked on, I have a lot of plans to work on that. But I really want to focus on adaptive reuse. And some of the people I've talked to in regards to some of the projects that may be coming up, looking at vertical housing, not skyscrapers, not anything that's going to block your view of the woods, but things like that to kind of address the fact that we are 3,000 to 3,600 units short right now for the people that live here.
Well, about 25 years ago, Dennis Nicholson and the St. Mary's Housing Council, whatever they call it, they pushed the Sweat Equity neighborhood over there off of Chancellor's Run Road. And people got in there and were able to build their homes, contribute what they could to the work of the homes. It worked out very successful. They ended up owning homes instead of renting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's time that the county go back to something like that? I mean, that helped low income and working people get into houses when they otherwise couldn't have.
No, I think that would be great. Again, there's so many pieces to this with different levels of success. But that would be something I would welcome again for sure. And I really want to work. I want to prioritize small builders being able to do these things rather than focus on the big builders, which are pushing the small builders out of business.
They also brought in the builders from PG County, brought them down here and put up a lot of Section 8 housing and advertised them and brought people from PG County to live here.
So-
Which contributed to a lot of the crack cocaine and the designation of Lexington Park as a hot spots during the Glendonian administration.
To your
and
point,
crime.
you're right. There is some of that going on. I've
It's
even been
like,
tracking
can the
some of that
government
from
do
Prince George's
anything
now.
right? Do you think it's possible?
Government is a beast. I think there's a lot of things that they get right, but I have been across the world and seen a lot of things that other governments do. They don't get everything right either, but we have a lot of lessons we can learn from overseas, and that's something I bring too. I've seen some things that work over there that don't. I've seen a lot of things that don't work over here, but we get right too. Will we ever get right? I don't really know, but if this works out for me one day, maybe I can be part of those conversations to help with that. I don't know. We'll see how I feel about that.
Okay. All right, Ryan Daniels, you're running for county commissioner in Lexington Park. That's District 4. People vote for you countywide, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so if you're living in Avenue or Ridge or Wynn, you can vote for this guy if you think he makes sense to you. And we thank you for your time. This is Ken Rosignol at the Chesapeake Today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ken.